I always have to give it a few minutes in the beginning just to notify people that the live is happening, and then I have some things to chat about. All right. So, hello and good morning, everybody. It's been a while since I've done a live, and I wanted to talk about my gut healing quiz that I did yesterday in my stories. I've been getting a lot of DMs since yesterday about why certain answers were right or wrong, and I didn't have time to come on here yesterday and answer them in my stories. It's my daughter's birthday, and so yesterday and today we've just been spending time with her and making her feel like a princess, so I didn't want to be on social media too much. So I'm going to just compile everything in this video, and then I will also save this live so you guys can have a little more info on leaky gut. It's a very popular topic. It's one I've talked about quite a bit on YouTube over the past 6 years or more, but there's always new information coming out, and I also always have new followers coming that are new to this topic. So I wanted to just go a little more in depth on that quiz that I had yesterday. Which was just like a little taste on some leaky gut information. But first of all, I hope all of you are doing well and that you're having a beautiful start to your week so far. We have actually been having a really nice, couple days because the weather here, it's still cold. There's tons of snow, but it's been warmer. At least there's sun out, so it's been nice. Anyway, okay, so one of the first things that I wanted to mention was about signs of leaky gut, and more in particular dysbiosis. So just very quickly, typically there's a reason why your gut is becoming leaky. So why your gut lining's falling apart, why it's separating. And one of the biggest things is inflammation. So why is there inflammation in the gut? Well, typically there's inflammation in the gut because you're either eating a lot of really bad food, and or you're stressed out a lot, and or drinking alcohol, and or have eating foods that you're sensitive to. A lot of people have gluten or dairy or so many other sensitivities. It could be blueberries, literally could be anything, but if you're eating foods you're sensitive to, you're going to be creating a lot of antibodies in the gut, which are inflammatory. But another really, really big trigger that's almost always the case for most people who have, progressed leaky gut is dysbiosis. I have never come across even one person in my practice, and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients that have not had a dysbiosis. Most people do have it, regardless what stool tests will show, as they're not accurate. I made a whole video on that on YouTube. Excuse me, I'm just gonna grab my matcha that I made, my iced matcha. I still haven't finished it. I made it this morning, but anyway, so dysbiosis is very common, and most people have it. So with that, you have to understand that leaky gut doesn't just occur. So you're not just getting, wake up one morning and your gut is now leaky. It doesn't work like that. It gets damaged because of inflammation in the gut. And that's always a combination, again, of stress, poor diet, and very, very much the case, dysbiosis, which are unfavorable pathogens that we naturally pick up from our environment. Could be parasites from food we're eating, could be bacteria or viruses from our environment. It could be bacteria that we naturally have in our bodies that has just overgrown, like yeast or molds and things like that, because our immune system is weakened from inflammation and lack of nutrients and things like that. So regardless the case, once you have dysbiosis there, these pathogens, whether it's parasites, yeast, bacteria, viruses, doesn't matter, they burrow into the gut lining, they tear it apart, they separate it, triggering this leaky gut. But more importantly, they are triggering so much antibody release from the immune system. And so the more antibody release, the more inflammation there is in the gut. Again, this inflammation sloughs off the gut lining, making it thinner and weaker and weaker. If you have a lot of inflammation, and this goes on for years, you are continuously having leaky gut. Now, if you do absolutely nothing, your gut lining is still replenishing. So if you have a leaky gut and you're not taking supplements or anything, your gut lining will still regenerate. It's still going to heal itself, because that's what our body's designed to do. It's designed to replicate cells, and our epithelial linings and gut linings and things like that can regenerate. This is natural. This is normal. So it's not that you have leaky gut and then your body just never does anything about it. your body is repairing leaky gut, whether you do bone broths or gelatin or anything else, okay? The problem is, if you don't get rid of the root cause of the source of the inflammation, you will perpetually be damaging your gut lining. So no matter how many times your body's repairing this gut lining, it's going to be continually damaged, and you're going to continually have leaky gut. So you're going to have all of the symptoms and all the side effects of it, which are very uncomfortable. It can be things like diarrhea or constipation or both. Most people who have a really severe leaky gut end up with some kind of IBD or just major IBS, where they're constantly like, you can't leave your house because you're not sure when you're going to have to use the bathroom next. So it can get really bad. But other people just have skin issues. Some people will have major migraines, and the list goes on. There's so many symptoms of leaky gut and dysbiosis and gut inflammation, so many that I can't even begin to touch in this video. But I have made videos, blog posts, and ebooks on all of this if you want more info on exactly what you're looking for in terms of symptoms. But the biggest thing to understand here is that, again, your body's healing the gut, but you're going to continually have the symptoms and have a damaged gut lining if you don't get to the root cause. So when you get to the root cause, and when people are promoting a candida cleanse or a pathogen cleanse or a gut healing protocol, and you're taking all the broths and the gelatins and the L-glutamines to reseal the gut lining, that is to get rid of the root cause, so that no matter how many times your body's healing your gut lining, it's actually going to stay healed as long as you're maintaining. So the broths, the gelatins, the antifungals, the probiotic, it's not there to quote unquote make your gut heal itself. Your body is doing that. It just keeps it strong and healthy. So say your gut is so leaky and so damaged and so much inflammation, and then you go and do a really good cleanse and you get rid of that inflammation. You clean up and tighten up your diet so your body's not reacting to certain foods. You find what your sensitivities are so you can lower your gut antibodies, and you do all those things. And you start taking your gelatin and your L-glutamine or whatever you need to do. You go from having a perpetually inflamed and damaged gut to having a strong, healthy gut. So that way, if you do come across a pathogen or a parasite, or you do have one time, a burger or something that's not super healthy, your gut can handle it. Your gut can destroy the pathogen or eliminate it properly without things leaking into the bloodstream, without things eliciting a massive immune response, without having this whole inflammatory response that's sending you to the bathroom or that's flaring up your skin. Your gut will handle it, it will eliminate it, and your gut will still be intact. So you're trying to take something that's severely damaged and inflamed and then flip it around by doing these kinds of protocols that we promote, not to repair my gut lining and then it's healed forever, because that doesn't happen. It's to strengthen it and keep it strong so that your body can function the way it should be. Our guts can become very leaky very quickly. If you do a one-time cleanse, and this was one of the questions that I asked in my stories in the quiz, how often should you be healing your gut? And it's constantly, because your gut's always going to get damaged. You can have a perfect cleanse and heal it and strengthen it so much. If you don't then do anything for your gut, say you have a really stressful period, or a period where you're having a lot of sugar, maybe a lot of alcohol, or you come across some parasites that have now entered your system, and then you're not doing anything to heal your gut from that point on, it will very quickly again become leaky, become inflamed, become damaged, and now you're back to square one. So when we say healing leaky gut, a protocol or something like that, it's to fix the major inflammation, toxicity, damage, everything that you have now. But then from there, you want to maintain. So you still want to be managing your stress. You still want to be doing gelatin or things like that here and there. You want to be managing your probiotics long term. These are things that are going to keep your gut strong, that gut integrity there, and keep, again, the antibodies minimal and all of that good stuff. So that's what the point of that question on the quiz was. Another thing that I asked is nutrient deficiencies. So another one of the questions there was, what are one of the most common nutrient deficiencies that you obtain normally when you have leaky gut? Now, a lot of you were all over the map with this one, and for good reason. So a lot of you were saying vitamin D, a lot were saying vitamin C, a lot were saying, B vitamins, a lot were saying iron and B vitamins. The correct answer was iron and B vitamins, but you're not wrong to say you'll have nutrient deficiencies with vitamin D or anything else, because typically if your gut's inflamed, whatever you're eating, whatever supplements you're taking, you're probably not absorbing. So you're naturally going to get very deficient in most of the vitamins and minerals. And that's the case with me. I work with very sick clients, people who have been trying to fix their health for so long and have still not gotten anywhere. Those are the type of clients that I get. So they're more challenging cases and they're more progressed autoimmune disorders and things like that. These individuals are so nutritionally depleted. When they come in, I literally am looking and I'm like, you need every vitamin and mineral and antioxidant under the sun because you're so deficient. It's not that they're not eating the right foods or doing things like that. It's just their body's not absorbing it because the gut is so damaged and inflamed. So yes, you guys were all right to say, to pick whatever you did pick as an answer, but the true answer is B vitamins and iron. That is the most common deficiency, and very quickly, the reason for that is because you need good probiotic balance in the gut to produce B vitamins that get absorbed from the large intestine. And when you have a very inflamed and damaged gut, your probiotics are pretty much very minimal. They're mostly non-existent as they've been killed off from all the inflammation and from all the pathogens and potential antibiotics you've taken or things like that. So as those probiotics are really diminished, you're not producing these B vitamins. And the problem with that is B vitamins are used in almost every cellular process in the body. Everything from methylation to skin regeneration to cellular regeneration and beyond. If you have graying hair, if you have anxiety and depression, if you have mood swings, if you have any kind of symptom, really, there's a good chance that you need B vitamins. A very good B complex or things like that, or maybe specific B vitamins. But regardless, they are used in so many processes, so it can get really bad if you're not absorbing B vitamins from your food or making the ones that are made in the colon via probiotics. So this is a very common deficiency, and almost every client of mine gets put on a B complex at some point in their protocol because they're so deficient. Another thing that's really deficient because of specifically dysbiosis, leaky gut, is iron. Iron is considered a heavy metal, and most people become anemic because of two things. Now, well, aside from the common heavy periods and blood loss, okay, so two things in regards to the gut. The first thing, and if there's questions, I will try to answer them in a second, but the first thing that happens is when you have pathogens, most importantly parasites, which again, a lot of us do, a majority of us do. Parasites feed off of heavy metals, iron being one of them. So when you are taking an iron supplement, or you're eating food that contains iron, or you're using an iron skillet to cook your food, or things like that, your body is going to, the parasites are going to absorb and eat that iron or that metal that you're consuming, leaving you without much to absorb. And so it concentrates on the colon inside parasites. So you're getting very little of it. And that, number one, is where you might start to notice an iron deficiency. But number two, when you have a lot of inflammation in the body, most of the time it stems from the gut. So when you have a lot of inflammation, especially stemming from the gut, I'm gonna have to change locations because my phone's dying. So I'm gonna go plug it in, but I'll just continue this. So when you have inflammation in the gut, your body is then producing, it's not producing, it's going through a lot of iron, a lot of ferritin during this inflammatory process. So during the inflammatory process, it's normal to have elevated ferritin if you get lab work done. But then once your inflammatory process is done, so after it's been going on for a while and it calms down, whether you change your diet or do whatever you need to do, it's very normal to see very low ferritin. So a lot of people get really anemic just by having parasites or some kind of inflammation in the body. If you have autoimmune, if you have chronic inflammation, your ferritin levels will spike during the inflammatory process and then get depleted. And it's so hard to replenish iron because for a lot of people, iron does two things that are bad. Number one, if you have pathogens, it'll feed the parasites or whatever's present. So you're not absorbing it and you're just providing them with another fuel source. Number two, if you supplement with iron, for a lot of people, and again, this is the case for a lot of my clients who have major autoimmune and major skin issues and things like that, it drives the Fenton reaction. The Fenton reaction is this reaction that undergoes in the body, uses oxygen, uses iron, and it creates free radicals creates more inflammation. So most of my clients can't actually supplement with iron because even if we do a cleanse and kill the parasites or whatever's present, when they start supplementing with iron, it drives this Fenton reaction and creates more inflammation because it's creating more oxygenated free radicals or whatever's going on. So with this Fenton reaction, you guys can Google and look into it. There's a lot to it, but I'm gonna lean a little bit so I can support my arm. There's a lot to this, but I can't go into too much more detail or this will be too long, and I got to get back to everything else for the party tonight. But anyway, the Fenton reaction is hard. So once you actually have iron deficiency, it gets very hard to find ways to increase your iron without driving inflammation and creating free radicals and without feeding pathogens and all of that. A lot of people don't know this, so they will be supplementing with iron per their doctor's request, and they're either flaring up from it with their autoimmune disorder, or they're not absorbing much of it because parasites or something else is absorbing it, and they keep getting their blood work done and they're like, yep, your iron's still low, your iron is still low, and there's no way to bring it up. So those are two very damaging things. When you have gut inflammation, when you have pathogens, it starts making you very deficient in iron, and then at that point it's really hard to bring up your iron stores. I have been anemic most of my life to the point where I will faint. I feel extremely dizzy. It affects my hair, my skin, everything. And no matter what I try, I only can take minuscule doses of iron because as soon as I do a lot of iron, I get that Fenton reaction. So I also have to be careful. So I'm in that situation as well. I completely get how hard it is to be anemic, to have low iron, and to not be able to fix it like, some people can. So that's the one thing I wanted to mention there. Now, another thing I wanted to mention was about symptoms. Coming back to symptoms, people don't realize how important our gut is in our health, especially literally every symptom you can think of. So I'm going to give you a few very common ones that I come across in my practice, but there's so many more that I just can't even begin to touch on without making this hours long. Number one thing I have is skin conditions. That's what I specialize in. So that's typically where my clients will come from. Skin conditions is like number one, what I work on, and gut things like IBS. So autoimmune, focusing on either the gut or the skin is where I focus. With skin conditions, I would say 99% of the time, it's coming from pathogens and dysbiosis in the gut. And most of the time, when you finally kill the pathogens, which are driving the immune system to produce these antibodies, to produce these immune cells like inflammatory cytokines, Th22 cells, things like that, it's coming from the gut. And when you kill those pathogens and you're no longer driving this inflammatory process and having this Th1, Th2 immune imbalance, you feel so much better and your skin starts to get cleared. But pathogens in the gut, depending on how long you've had them, are so hard to clear, especially if biofilms are present, which is very often the case, especially if anyone has ever been on antibiotics. When biofilms are present and have formed, it can take a couple years to fully get rid of things that have been building up in the colon. So it can take a long time to fix the skin if you've had the condition for a while, but it also takes a lot of effort to stop this inflammatory loop that your body's stuck in as a result of the inflammation from the gut, from the pathogens. So pathogens will elevate histamine. Histamine will elevate things like interleukin 6, interleukin 22. Your body produces Th22 cells, and it just starts to create this inflammation, and then it drives stress and cortisol and anxiety, which then drives this process, and it just literally keeps going. And it's hard to break your body out of this inflammatory loop. And so that's where it takes a while to correct autoimmune conditions, to correct skin conditions. But most of the time, they come back and start at the gut level. So it's so important to get, your pathogens in balance. So that's always the number one symptom. If somebody comes in with skin conditions, we start there. I'm like, let's start clearing up the gut while we're doing the drainage, while we're starting to modulate the immune system and support the thyroid and everything else, of course. But the gut is always very much a part of each protocol that I do. Another thing is the gut. So IBS, IBD, Crohn's, loose stools, constipation, gas and bloating, food sensitivities, anything that you can think of in regards to digestion is very much coming from the gut as well, and from pathogenic overgrowth, from a lot of inflammation and histamine in the gut. If you have your gallbladder removed and your body's like continuously leaking bile into the intestinal system from the liver, rather than storing it in the gallbladder, you're going to have elevated histamine in the gut, which then also can cause skin issues. And there's a lot more than just this. So there's so much to think about, but it comes down to the gut, and it's so important. It's not enough to just start taking bone broth or gelatin. You need to fix what's driven the gut to be leaky in the first place. So pathogens and food sensitivities, bad diet, and everything else. Stress, anxiety, poor vagal nerve outflow, taking too many antibiotics. There's just a lot of stuff that needs to be corrected to start to see changes within your health. Another thing that's huge for me with my clients is hormones. So I see somebody come in with anxiety, depression, mood swings, irritability, just kind of feeling like frustrated all the time or things like that. I'm like, there's pathogens present. There is toxicity coming from the gut, inflammation coming from the gut. A lot of pathogens in the gut release neurotoxins, ammonia, things like that, that will pass the blood-brain barrier and create brain inflammation. So when people come in with mood swings, anxiety, depression, things like that, we just want to support hormones. We want to look into their genetic SNPs and say what genetic SNPs are present that might make you susceptible to these things. We want to do a lot of things, which we do. But I'm always starting with the gut. I'm always like, let's stop what's creating this inflammation, and then we'll get a handle on everything else. And pathogens, again, the gut, the inflammation's very much at the center, at the heart of that. It's not enough, though, to just kill pathogens and heal the gut. You also then want to start correcting all the damage that's happened as a result of the pathogens. So you want to start saying, pathogens made me nutritionally deficient. Let's replenish that. Pathogens have created so much inflammation and has caused a backup in my emunctories that I'm now not detoxing excess hormones, and I have hormonal imbalance. So let's fix that. My adrenals are shot because of all the inflammation that I've been undergoing. So let's repair the adrenals. My immune system's completely exhausted and dysfunctional because of these constant fires it's been putting out over many years. So let's repair the immune system. There's so much that needs to be done, but it always starts again with pathogens. Hair loss, hair thinning. There's a lot of triggers for that. I've talked about this, but a lot of it does, again, stem from the gut, from these B vitamin deficiencies, from iron deficiencies, from inflammation, and etc. So lots of symptoms. You will undergo very many symptoms if you have pathogens in the gut. Everybody's different, and the way that they display in the body will be different or unique for everyone. But if you're not able to find the source, or figure out the path or the route that you need to take to fix the symptoms that you have, find a practitioner who can help you with that. Because when you fix what's going on in the gut, again, there's always so much more that you need to repair because of what's happened in the gut. But if you start there, you'll start to really see good changes. And then you start fixing all the other imbalances that you have, neurotransmitter imbalances and hormone imbalances, your thyroid, your adrenals, and all the other things that have now become out of balance as a result of that. But once you actually fix the gut and you keep it repaired. So for us, I will do, sorry guys, I'm like pretty pregnant right now, so I get out of breath easily, just literally by talking. But anyway, when you are working on the gut, like for our family, we've all done like legit cleanses, like strong cleanses multiple times. So we do them seasonally where we cut out everything, we do antifungals and all the things, we repair the gut, but we are almost every day doing things like collagen or bone broth or gelatin. We're doing L-glutamine here and there. We are eating fermented foods. Now, you don't want to overdo fermented foods because they can then create a lot of yeast and you can become out of balance again. But we will do kimchi or sauerkraut or miso or something like that. We're doing things to support our gut all the time. So even though I'm like, yeah, my gut feels great, it feels repaired, you want to keep it that way. So that was the point of this video. Just wanted to touch a little more on that quiz because I was getting so many amazing responses, a couple hundred responses, but they were kind of all over the map, and a lot of you were confused as to why one answer would be wrong or something like that. So I thought I'd make this live and clarify. I'm just going to quickly scroll through the comments. I don't know if there's any questions, but I do need to sign off soon. The Crazy Amy, thank you for joining this live. I'm happy you were able to attend as well. Rosy Cheeks Don't Care. I love that name, that handle. How do you cleanse? I have ebooks on this. I have a seasonal candida and parasite cleanse ebook, which walks you step by step through it. Then after you complete the candida cleanse, I have a leaky gut protocol, which you do after that, and that will help you through it. But I also have tons of resources on YouTube and my blog, so definitely start there. But you want to clean out the pathogens, clean out the colon with lots of fibers and things that have been stuck there for a while. You want to flush the colon. You want to be changing your diet. So there's a lot that needs to happen in order to repair the damage that's been done over many years. Is hyperpigmentation on the leg related to leaky gut or something else? It very well could be. If there's skin conditions or if there's a reason why something's happening in the body, it's typically driven by inflammation, which then drives hormonal imbalances and things like that. So very well could be. It could be something as simple as you have a nutrient deficiency in an antioxidant or something like that. But then again, you want to say, well, why is there nutrient deficiencies? Is it simply because I've had a horrible diet, or is there genuinely something going on? If you've had a bad diet, whether in your childhood or in your teens or now, if you've had a lot of stress or if you've been on antibiotics, there most likely is gut issues that you want to be correcting. For the gut lining, we use bone broth, but that's high in histamine. It's not helpful with autoimmune conditions. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, so the Crazy Amy asked that question. I don't use, like with my autoimmune clients, I mean, I'll tell them to try bone broth if they want and see how they feel, but we typically do gelatin. Gelatin is a very low histamine item, and I think it's way better than bone broth in terms of quickly repairing and bringing inflammation down. Bone broth is better for maintenance once you've brought inflammation down and you're not worried about histamine anymore. Then bone broth is very often a better thing to bring in down the line. All right. Okay, so am I taking no clients? I technically am. It depends honestly on the case right now. So I wasn't taking on new clients, but if the case is something that I think is not going to take up hours and hours and hours extra of my time. So I have some really complicated cases where I'm up at night for 4 hours studying it and trying to find, like, outside of what they're paying me, I'm like studying the case, trying to find the perfect protocols and stuff. And so a lot of my clients are like that, and it gets really exhausting. So at this time, if the case is straightforward for me, absolutely. So it's always worth sending me an email, and then I will let you know if I can take your case or not. But I do have a wait list as well. And as soon as I get a cancellation, I'll take the next person from the wait list. So even if I'm not accepting at this moment, if you send me an email, I will have your email there and I will reach out as soon as something becomes available. But yes, technically I am. I do have room for clients that have a straightforward case. You know, if you have like a straightforward autoimmune or something like that, no problem. It's the people who come in with like 4 different autoimmune conditions and so many things going on that I'm like, that's going to take me a while to study and really get into. All right. All right, so I think that's it for questions, and I'm gonna just sign off now. So I'm gonna save this live for you guys. There's actually a question that came in from Rare and Real. What are your thoughts on CBD? I don't find that it's like a huge thing for leaky gut. I never really use CBD for that, but I love it so much for anxiety, for stress, for the brain inflammation aspect of things. It's amazing, and it's helped me so much, so I'm a huge fan of it. But yeah, in terms of like actual gut support, I don't think it does much for that. So just depends what you're looking to use it for. But yeah, I think that's it. All right, guys. So thank you everybody for joining. I hope you guys learned something, or maybe it refreshed your memory on some of these things that you might have already known. I hope it answered your questions a bit more about my quiz and my stories. I post so many quizzes to my membership platform, holisticspring.org, that I kind of shared yesterday, but way more questions. And every time you answer a question in the quiz, right or wrong, it gives you a full description of why it's right or wrong, and it explains what the true answer is and why. So it's very educational as you go through, but it's more interactive. So I find it's a fun way to learn for some people who don't want to just read a blog post. So definitely check out that membership platform. But thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys have a very beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.